The thalamus is an egg-shaped body of gray matter in the diencephalon region of the forebrain. It forms the upper and lateral walls of the third ventricle, while the dorsal surface is part of the floor of the body of the lateral ventricle. Ventricles are a communicating network of cavities filled with cerebrospinal fluid. The thalamus is a paired subcortical structure positioned directly superior to the midbrain and posterior of the hypothalamus. This allows for maximum nerve fiber connections to the cerebral cortex in all directions, offering the thalamus to serve as the central hub for most motor and sensory signals apart from smell. The interthalamic adhesion is a flattened band of glial tissue that connects both parts of the thalamus at their medial surfaces, whose functional significance is still currently being researched. The thalamus is a relay station that receives sensory input from various sensory modalities and transforms it before submitting it to the cortex. It receives input from sensory organs such as the eyes, ears, and skin, and encodes this information into a format that is suitable for further processing in the cortex. The representation of the input in the thalamus is thought to be in the form of spatiotemporal patterns of neural activity. The algorithm proposed by Marr for the thalamus involves two main stages, the input stage and the output stage. The input stage involves the thalamus receiving sensory input from the sensory organs and processes it in a way that enhances certain aspects of the information. Marr proposed that the thalamus selectively amplifies or suppresses the sensory input. This process helps to filter out noise, highlight relevant features, and extract important information from the sensory signals. After the input is processed, the transformed sensory information is transmitted from the thalamus to the appropriate areas of the cortex. The thalamus is responsible for routing the processed information to the appropriate cortical regions based on the specific sensory modality and its associated features. This routing is achieved through specific neural pathways and circuits. The thalamus is involved in various neural pathways and circuits in the brain, and its functioning is influenced by the following neurotransmitter dynamics, the first of which being the corticothalamic loop. This loop links the thalamus and cortex, forming a feedback system. These loops involve reciprocal connections between the thalamus and the cortical regions that it projects to. This feedback mechanism plays a crucial role in the information processing and integration between the thalamus and cortex. Next is the thalamocortical pathways. The thalamus projects its processed sensory information to specific regions of the cortex through thalamocortical pathways. Different sensory modalities have dedicated thalamocortical pathways that ensure the appropriate routing of transmission of sensory information. Lastly are neurotransmitter dynamics. The thalamus contains various types of neurons that release different neurotransmitters. Glutamate is the primary excitatory neurotransmitter involved in transmitting signals between thalamic neurons and cortical neurons. GABA is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the thalamus and plays a role in regulating the flow of information within the thalamocortical circuits.